They don't get everyone. Why aren't people? Only us? Only us?
所以说我们就是在这个交流上面呢。
You're not allowed to go in?
不是，你们这个听得懂。
Well, I can go in. Yeah,
所以这个有时候我们也可以在那。
I can go in and they cannot.
这就是我。
Come on. They can. Right? Okay. Okay. Oh my God, this is ridiculous.
I'm sorry, I cannot help you. Really.
Oh my God. They can. Right? Okay. Okay. Oh my God, this is ridiculous.
I'm sorry, I cannot help you. Really.
Oh my God.
But then she's pregnant. We want to scan.
我跟你，我不知道怎么沟通哎。
Actually expected this. That is why I'm recording.
先等等吧，我问一下别人哈，等会一下。
So what is happening here is we went to some hospital. My wife is pregnant. We wanted to do a scan, but they cannot let us in. Foreigners cannot be let inside the hospital.
You can see they called the security for us. They called the security for us not to enter. The security has come right now. They said we cannot enter. You understand now? They called the security for us. They said we cannot enter. Now you can see they called the security for us. Now they say we cannot enter. You can see now what is happening. Even after we've finished our quarantine, and we have given all our documents, and they say we cannot enter. You can see now they called the police for us. Even after we've finished our quarantine and they've given us all the whole document for our quarantine, they called the police for us. You can see right now. So now you can see they called the police for us. So now they are calling other teams to come. You can see, everybody can see, the word can bear us. Hospital! You can see I've showed him all my documents. Now it wants to hit me the distance. Take. Hospital! Take. Sit down! Sit down! Sit down! Sit down! You can see now. You can see now. Sit down! You can see now. You can see now. Sit up! You can see that.
This is the second day I have been locked in this room in the name of quarantine.
For 2 days, Simon, a Nigerian national, has been locked in this hospital room against his will. To protect his identity, he asked for his name to be changed. He was evicted from his apartment and forced into quarantine over fears that the African community in Guangzhou was spreading the coronavirus.
There are some Europeans that are here, South America that are here, but they were not forcefully quarantined.
He says he's lived in Guangzhou for 3 years, has no recent travel history, and has not come into contact with anyone with COVID-19. He says he's tested negative for the virus, yet he remains in quarantine.
Yes, so some Ugandan and other Africans, as long as you are black, you are being forced to quarantine. So I still asked our government to help us, if possibly, to send a plane to take us home.
The BBC has spoken to dozens who say they were forced into quarantine regardless of whether they tested negative for the virus.
Look at the door, they lock it from outside. I cannot go out. Understand? I cannot go out. They lock it from outside right now. I'm shaking the door.
McDonald's apologised over this notice, handed out to customers in one of its local branches. The note reads that black people are refused to be served. The United States consulate warned African Americans to avoid the city. The Chinese government maintains that China has zero tolerance of racism.
China's friendly policy towards Africa has not changed, and African countries and people's friendly feeling towards China will not be shaken. We will not discriminate against African brothers.
As much of China begins to return to normality after months of social isolation, one community in Guangzhou remains under lockdown. Danny Vincent, BBC News.
那感染了光隔离我们，为什么其他的人不隔离？有啊，有啊，
前面15楼已经全都要隔离啊，全部黑人隔离。
全部黑人隔离，华人呢？白人呢？为什么你们不隔离他们呀？你们换位思考一下，我们中国同胞也有在国外的，也有在非洲的。如果这个事情传出去，你想我们的同胞在那边会怎么样？你们有想没想过这个问题？已经讲。我知道哈，你们是按章办事，这个我很理解。我们都是按照上级的要求来。
Just receive the order.
Okay.
Okay.
From who?
From the government.
I thought you were working with the government.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought you were working with the government. So if the government tells you to tell us something, you should be able to defend the government for the reasons, right?
I have no. 我暂时还没有那个文件。
Okay, I have a question. I have a family, and I'll show you.
Okay.
Here, this is the water we drink. Now, this water I have a question. Now, this water cannot go through this hole. So when you seal my door, how do I get?
You can open this door and the water, and you call the water. You should call our.
So every time I have to eat, I call you.
Okay.
I want to drink water, I call you.
Okay.
My God. This is we who are stressed. Do you know that you're doing this to us?
我们不是让你紧张，而是因为现在暂时需要你们暂时隔离。
Yeah, but why my neighbor can go, I cannot go, even to buy food. I have baby, you know.
And 你这段时间有没有接触过非洲的人
No, you ask me all this question. You doctor, you come here 2 times. I don't see anybody. I respect you. I don't see anybody. I don't go out. Ask them. Ask Baoan. I don't go anywhere.
They took 10 syringes of blood, 10 samples, in the syringes of this lady. I don't know. This lady must be very, really patient. She's very patient, because I would never allow someone to take as much blood from me, like 10 samples in 10 syringes. I mean, and from the look of things, just watching that video, it gave me this vibe like this man would have even wanted to take the whole of it. It was like, initially, if you see the video, he presented 3 syringes. Just watch this.
Thank you.
Small.
I will small. Okay. Your name? Small. This one big. This one. Okay. Okay. Where Mimi? Okay. Where Mimi? Where Mimi? Okay. Okay, okay.
Barakalia. Liko kwa mwankana ngaka ya meba na.
Maybe you didn't put this on.
Okay.
Remove, put another place.
But he's not slowly. No, come here.
Remove. See. Okay now.
No.
Remove, put another place.
Yes, I move. Okay.
Put
also that we've seen in videos and films of people having their blood taken. That as far as I understood, that the way for testing for this virus, was through the nose and the throat. A swab up the nostril and in the throat. And we're seeing these pictures, and I was also informed, by our people there, that people were being taken in and having their blood taken and so forth, and that it appeared in many cases that it was only Africans and Nigerians who were being, who were experiencing this kind of treatment. So we registered again very forcefully our concerns and displeasure, and that it's not something we can accept. I spoke to some of our people there in Guangzhou, and what do we do? Where do we go from here? And a lot of them, of course, said that they just want to come home. And we're putting in place as quickly as possible the mechanisms to start bringing them home.
City leaders in southern China are denying allegations of coronavirus racism, insisting that foreigners are not being discriminated against. Africans living in Guangzhou say that they're being kicked out of their homes and face harassment as health workers step up testing for imported infections. The African Union, Nigeria and Ghana are calling on the Chinese government to address concerns. Professor Keith Richberg is the director of the Journalism and Media Studies Centre at the University of Hong Kong. He says there has been discrimination against Africans living in China for some time now.
Ever since Xi Jinping announced that the virus was essentially contained in China and that they could start reopening businesses and reopening factories, the numbers have been going up, but they've been blaming all of those new numbers, those new cases and the new deaths in China on what they call imported cases, meaning that they've contained it in China, but people coming back into the country are bringing it along. It smacks a bit of xenophobia to me, because number one, most of these so-called imported cases are Chinese nationals who left at Chinese New Year and are just now returning, or returning from schools abroad, etc. So these aren't foreigners, these are Chinese who are bringing in with the virus. And secondly, they've been given really no statistics to prove that the real numbers of people coming in with the virus are actually foreigners at all. But that's kind of the narrative or the storyline that they'd like to say, is that all of these new cases are all from foreigners. They've even restricted foreign diplomats from coming back into Beijing, for example. China has always had this kind of complex relationship with Africa, whereas officially, they see the African countries as brothers. Lately, China has put a lot of development money into Africa. They built the African Union headquarters. They built the railroad from Nairobi to Mombasa. But and as a consequence of these, tens of thousands or millions of Chinese living in Africa, you also have a lot of African traders, African students who have gone over to China. And so, officially, on an official level, there's this kind of feeling of fraternity. On the ground level, people to people, the Chinese simply don't like them very much. They're basically there's a lot of racism. I've been to Guangzhou. I've been to that area that they call Little Africa, or more derogatorily, they call it the Chocolate City. The Africans tell me they feel discriminated against by the Chinese.
Huddled on cobbled streets with layers of clothing to generate heat under the cold skies of Guangzhou City, this is the new way of life for Africans living in China. The very color of their skin now means trouble, screaming of sickness to natives who bear a different skin tone from them. Africans have become subjects of racial profiling. Chinese nationals blame them for the rising number of new coronavirus cases in the country.
They didn't want me to enter the subway. I had even bought my ticket that was 4 yuan. And by the time I was going to the subway, they stopped me. And then they told me that no foreigner is allowed. And I was like, why? This is a subway. Then they say that is the rule. Then who am I to argue with the locals? I complied.
According to the Chinese Health Authority, 63 new coronavirus cases were reported in mainland China, with 61 of them described as imported cases. Brenda, not her real name, has been living in China since 2017. Earlier this week, she was kicked out of her home without any explanation. And just like any other person in a foreign country, the embassy is usually the next resort. For her, it was the Kenyan embassy.
I didn't have a place to go. I had to sleep outside. Yes, I did sleep outside. The next day they came. I tried calling them. They were not actually responding to my call. What they told me, go to the police. I did that. After staying at the police station for a maximum of 3 good hours, they told me that we are sorry, we cannot help.
She reached a dead end after 2 days of sleeping outside the embassy, a situation that many like her from other African nations have found themselves in. This video shows Chinese police officers escorting people of African descent from a place they had set apart for themselves.
I know of 2 pregnant ladies. One is 8 months pregnant, the other is 6 months pregnant. They cannot access hospital.
Patricia, also not her real name, was lucky to have escaped the eyes of Chinese nationals who came knocking in her house earlier today. Our conversation on phone revealing just how scary everything is.
So the moment they have come, mimi nimejificha. So sasa niko kwa nyumba, the rest wametolewa, wanasema ati wanawapeleka quarantine for 14 days.
It will be the 4th day today that foreigners, especially blacks, are denied access to services in the city.
Now I don't have food. I don't know what to do. And I can't just go to the streets. I don't want to sleep outside. Now it's either I choose to have somewhere to sleep or I choose food.
Our calls and even texts to Kenya's ambassador to China, Sara Serem, regarding the racial discrimination against Kenyan nationals have gone unanswered. These notices in Chinese, which translate to, this community is not accepting foreigners, especially black people. If you've rented a house to a black person, quickly get in touch and let them leave, have been the source of all evictions.
And we are 3 there.
Brenda got lucky. She is housed by a Zimbabwean national in this small space where they're living with one more person. She might be lucky, but a majority are not.
Keep us around. Everywhere we
They hope that the Kenyan government will come to their rescue before things get worse. Raquel Migai, Citizen TV.
I want to go to the other country to work 3 months in some holiday. American, but I know American do not give me the chance to have the opportunity. I want to learn the other things. The other let the other people to work